Hey, boys and girls, and here's your Friday read aloud. The one I have for us today is called Mysterious Mars. So I'm hoping we're going to learn a little bit about Mars, which is one of the planets. This one is written by Susan Lennox. Mysterious Mars. Here's a question for you to think about. What have scientists learned about Mars? So as we're reading, think about something that you're just learning. Well, a scientist, an astronaut, had to already learn that fact in order to share it here. So let's listen in for some new facts. Here's our table of contents. Introduction. Long ago, ancient people saw a bright red light in the sky. The Romans named this red light Mars after their god of war. The name stuck, and we still use it today for the fourth planet in our solar system. Gazing from afar, ancient astronomers wondered what made Mars red. Astronomers in the 1800s studied the planet through early telescopes. They found that Mars had polar ice caps just as Earth did. Parts of Mars were also covered with long lines that looked like a web of waterways. Well, that seems to me like it would seem to have rivers. An Italian astronomer who discovered these lines in 1887 called them channels. Channels are natural waterways. Thought the astronomer said he saw canals. Canals are waterways built by people. The mix up led people to believe that intelligent beings built canals on Mars. Were the channels on Mars really canals? Had they held water? And why was Mars red? Scientists had many questions about the planet. Taking a closer look. In the 1960s, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, also known as NASA, began the Mariner missions to answer these questions. The Mariner 4 spacecraft traveled to Mars to take close-up pictures. The pictures showed that the canals were canyons. This says this Martian canyon is 9 kilometers or 6 miles deep. The patterns on its surface show that it may once have been covered by liquid water or ice. And this Martian canyon has slopes created by lava in a rippled valley floor. Well, that's interesting. The Mariner 9 spacecraft showed that Mars had valleys and volcanoes. One of the volcanoes is the largest on any planet in our solar system. It has 26 kilometers or 16 miles high. Oh, it is 26 kilometers or 16 miles high and 500 kilometers or 311 miles wide at its base. That's 3 times as tall as Mount Everest. So, Mariner 9 was launched in 1971. It was the first satellite to orbit Mars, and it stayed in orbit for nearly a year. During that time, it collected over 7,000 images, which allowed scientists to map out most of the Martian surface. This is a view of the South Polar Cap on Mars, and this is a view of the channels on Mars taken by Mariner 9. Scientists also learned that the atmosphere on Mars is much thinner than Earth's. It can't filter the sun's harmful rays the way Earth's atmosphere can. Mars is also very cold, with an average temperature of negative 63 degrees Celsius, which means it's negative 81 degrees Fahrenheit. So remember on our coldest day where it felt like it was zero. It was below freezing. This is way below freezing. It says, this is interesting. So, our calendar year is 365 days. In that time, Earth will travel one complete trip around the sun. Earth, at the same time, each and every day is Spinning. So as it's going around the sun, it's also spinning on its axis, which gives us day and night. Day and night, 365 days a year. Well, this is showing us how long 1 year is on Mars. So if we all lived on planet Mars, we would take one trip around the sun in 687 days. And the question says, why is a Mars year almost twice as long as an Earth year? A year is the amount of time it takes a planet to orbit the sun. Mars is further away from sun than Earth is, so it has a longer distance to travel. Its orbiting speed is also a bit slower than Earth's. That makes a lot of sense. This helped explain why the surface of Mars is so dry. Water freezes or evaporates in the dry, cold air of Mars. The dry soil and lack of water cause heavy dust storms on large areas of the planet. Question: Mars is much smaller than Earth, so why is the amount of land surface of these planets nearly the same? Take a look at the picture of Earth below. See all that blue? Most of Earth's surface is covered by water. Mars is a desert planet. Its surface is not covered by water. And Martian moons. So there are two moons that orbit Mars. It's Phobos and Deimos. These are Greek words meaning fear and panic. Phobos and Deimos were twin sons of the Greek god of war, Ares. In 1976, the Viking 2 rover landed on Mars and took samples of the surface. It sent information back to scientists on Earth. The scientists learned that the rusty red color was due to a large amounts of iron, which is a metal, in the soil. Viking also reported no signs of organic matter or the remains of living things. Mars seemed to be a dry desert planet. In 1976, Viking mission was made up of 2 spacecraft. It was the first mission to land on the surface of Mars. Both spacecraft looked for signs of life by testing soil samples. So it would pick up different samples of rocks and sand and dust, anything it could find, and keep it on board. Clouds of ice form around the canyons. Scientists were still puzzled, though. Canyons on Earth are formed by running water. Mars looked like Earth without water. In 1997, the Mars Pathfinder also found rocks that seemed to have been shaped by water. Could Mars have had water long ago? And the question said, would I be weightless on Mars? No, but you would weigh less because you would experience less than half the gravity you do on Earth. Looking for answers. In 2003, the European Space Agency launched the Mars Express. This spacecraft would orbit Mars and collect information about the planet. Just 1 month after arriving at Mars, Mars Express found ice at the planet's south pole. This meant there was water on Mars. So this rover is called Curiosity. It's a car-sized rover. It was launched in 2011. This is probably just a few years before most of you were born. Its mission was to see if Mars could have supported small life forms called microbes and if humans could survive there someday. The Martian landscape photo was taken by Curiosity on day 580 of its mission, and this is the first sample of powdered rock taken by Curiosity's drill. For the next several years, the Mars Express studied the planet's south pole. In July 2018, which was just 2 years ago, European scientists said that they had found a saltwater lake underneath about 2 kilometers or 1 mile of ice on the surface of Mars. They think this lake is 20 kilometers or 12 miles wide And scientists think there may be other lakes too that might even contain life. It's important to note that when they're talking about life, they don't necessarily mean other human beings or things that are living like we know them here, but something that can grow and, yeah, basically grow in a new place. In 2012, NASA sent the Curiosity rover to Mars. Curiosity tested samples of the soil and air on Mars. The air samples contained a gas called methane. On Earth, tiny living things called microbes make methane. So scientists started to wonder if the same might be true on Mars. Question: how long is a day on Mars? A Martian day is just a bit longer than an Earth day. It's 24 hours and 37 minutes. So it's actually just 37 minutes longer than an Earth day. Scientists can't say for sure if life really did or does exist on Mars. More Mars missions are planned for 2020 and beyond. That's the year we are in right now. These missions will send rovers to look for signs of life. They will also gather information to see if it might be possible for people to someday live there. Perhaps one day, Mars will be inhabited by intelligent beings from Earth. And here's our glossary. I hope you learned a little bit about Mars and are getting curious. Monday is the big day. We are taking our trip to outer space. Bye, boys and girls.